Alright everybody, so today I'm going to be making a video that I think is actually, I've done this before. I made a video on how to beat anxiety, certain steps you need to take as a person to really kind of improve yourself in that way. But I was thinking to myself today, I was in the shower and I'm thinking dude, I have a lot of information, I have a lot of knowledge based on, philosophical ideas, human behavior, how the mind works and how we're affected through social media. I was thinking I want to make a video about this, but my biggest problem every time I want to do something like this is that I'll typically turn the camera on and then I'll just, I don't even know what to say. There's so much information that I have up there that I've consumed over the years, maybe 3 to 5 years of studying, psychological warfare, all that stuff, politics, how it affects people's egos. And I find it funny because most people are very unaware of how much knowledge I have. And maybe that sounds like ego. I don't know. Maybe that statement can sound a little, out there. But I do take pride in knowing how much time I put into understanding the human brain, the mind, and how we're affected in many ways socially. I'm going to go through a lot of these topics that I just wrote down today. The notes of human behavior is the first topic. Second topic of how ego affects politics. Third topic is roots of belief. And then fourth topic is hatred linked to comparison and judgment through social media. And that is all that, it actually took me quite a while to write down. But so we're going to start with the notes of human behavior. The biggest problem is ego. When someone develops enough of what they believe is factual in all forms of the current topic or objective, there's a very thin gap in that person's line of comprehension that allows them to question their own thought process or analysis, not allowing for their mind to leave room for the possibility of being wrong about something, because at that point, they don't want to feel stupid. Their minds are able to convince not just themselves, but also other people that everything that goes against their perspective is considered delusional or being uneducated. It results in mental disturbance or even anger in some cases, leading their spirit into a more aggressive tone in the way that they speak, because the barrier of intellectual insecurity has been breached, and that is the mind's natural response when it develops enough biased ego. So if somebody disagrees with somebody else because their information comes from something that isn't of education or school or something like that, they don't want to accept the fact that that information may be actually pretty accurate even if it didn't come from school. And that's normal, healthy criticism, healthy skepticism of the information. But there is, however, such thing as a healthy ego. When someone is able to consume enough knowledge on a certain study they have interest in, and that information turns into confidence. The more you know and learn, the more open you will be to public opinion, conversation, and social interaction. Also, the most important or key factor in making sure that the ego is healthy is just being patient, learning to be okay with being wrong. And being wrong doesn't make you dumb. Also, accepting when you are wrong can also lead to being more adaptable. Being adaptable in terms of understanding when your perspective is off or is in the wrong is very, very important. So then I touch on how ego affects politics, because I look at the world today and I understand that how divided we are. It is insane, and I think that a huge reason for that is how people feel with their strong opinion, or they don't want to be on the wrong side of history, all that stuff. So I went into the dark side of politics. That's actually how I start the paragraph. It says, "This is the dark side of politics. When you have a built system of left versus right, there is barely any room for common ground for a stable society. In this point in history, nobody feels 100% comfortable expressing their own opinions or beliefs. Why is that? It's because they know that there is a 100% chance for backlash or even censorship. The backlash will come from those who feel offended by your beliefs or why you decide to support a certain political figure. Once you say something controversial, the likelihood that people start to treat you differently basically skyrockets. You will immediately feel the energy of those who disagree. It makes you feel like you just became an enemy to that political party simply because you felt the way you did. Not many people like talking about politics for this exact reason. It only makes division louder, especially when the verbal communication can be the point of emotional release for an individual who gets very mad about a certain topic. Not many people understand or are self-aware of when the tone in their voice seems more aggressive. These are typically the same people who only know how to respect people who agree with them. It's almost like a cult-like behavior, and it's wrong. When someone talks to a person or treats them differently for the sole reason that they don't have the same spiritual alignments or political interests. People have a tendency, our human minds have a tendency to latch on to people who have the same emotional, spiritual, political beliefs as us. So then, we talk to them more, and we all of a sudden they're our best friends, right? But whenever we talk to people who disagree with us, we have a tendency to treat them differently without even knowing it. That's something that people aren't self-aware of. And I'm going to actually go in now to the root of belief. Where does this stem from? So belief is very much philosophical. Not only that, but it's spiritual. Whenever someone believes, because that information resonates with their soul, they will do anything to stand up and protect that belief system. Here's the thing. Who controls the information being distributed all throughout media? Who has the authority to determine if something is based on facts and truth and shared to the public? The people who pull the strings on everything are also the same people who control the information. Through the power of social media manipulation and political algorithms, the people who want to divide the public for their own power are getting exactly what they want. This is deeper thinking that most people aren't even aware of. Young men and women are targeted in a way that makes them compare each other. Like women are programmed through media, podcasts, musicians, etc. to believe that men are pigs, rapists, cowards. Men are programmed to believe that women are sluts, emotionally incompetent, and weak. While this may be true in some regards to allegations on both genders, it's still wrong, because all it's doing is generalizing the idea that all men and women carry those same traits. But when men and women are emotionally exhausted and frustrated, they resort to blame. Gender ideology then directly affects the political perspective and creates more division through the spiritual attachment and emotional instability. I would say that being emotionally exhausted in life has a heavy impact on how how we see other people. So, because obviously these podcasters and whoever is telling everyone all this information, it's making us hate each other, and in a way that is it's just not healthy, because we're all so tired and exhausted that it allows us to emotionally release how we feel through politics, which is crazy. Now, the last topic that I have here is hatred linked to comparison and judgment. This is heavily involved with social media. So our minds have been conditioned to compare and judge through materialistic greed and evolution. We look at someone, and within 5 seconds, you feel a certain way about them. It's the brain's first instinct and the first impression. Whether we like to admit it or not, we always judge a book by its cover. The way they walk, what someone is wearing, or it has direct correlation to how you view the person's life without even knowing them. You don't know a person that is walking up to you. That person might be dressed weird or have a goofy haircut that doesn't seem culturally appropriate in terms of a normal individual. So you might think that person is sketchy or dangerous, but for all you know, they could be your best friend within a week. So our eyes judge and our minds react before giving the personality even a slight chance. So is this considered healthy precautionary instincts, or is it linked to false judgment? Social media is dangerous for comparison and judgment as well. If you post a picture of yourself and nobody likes it, even if you think it's the coolest picture ever, you feel like no one cares. You feel like you have less value and therefore less popular. See other people get a lot more likes and attention, so suddenly they're the top dog or the cool kid in town. So people feel attached to numbers, views, likes. Because it makes them feel involved in a well-rounded community. It also creates an unnecessary level of high standard or expectations. The more your brain is fed with the same content that represents a high level of social status or perfectionism, the more normal it feels for yourself to be involved in that standard. You will start to look at yourself differently. Every little imperfection or physical flaw, you're basically dehumanizing yourself because you are afraid of judgment from that community. Hiding things in pictures or making acne disappear because you're embarrassed by people who zoom out or zoom in on a photo and feel grossed out. When in reality, who doesn't get acne? You're creating a digital version of yourself out of fear and judgment that takes away your true values and what makes you human. And I think we see that with Meta, Facebook, Instagram. So that is just my understanding, and I wanted to write that all down. I'm actually really glad that I wrote that all down, because it's not the first time I've done this. I wrote down how to beat anxiety, which is on the table back there. And this is something that most people, I just feel like I had to share it. I'll drop a like, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Thanks for watching.